Hey y'all, so today we're going to look at the Walther PPK. This one happens to be a Smith and Wesson gun made under license for Walther. See the little Smith and Wesson thing on there? So technically it's a Smith and Wesson Walther PPK. This one happens to be in 380 ACP, or for you Europeans, 9mm Kurz. Just sounds cooler saying 9mm Kurz because then nobody knows what the hell it is. And you get to confuse the guy at Walmart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the gun. It's kind of a super iconic gun for reasons that I don't need to explain. And I figured I'd do a review of it. I've had this for several years, and I never really reviewed it because of it. Some of the really older stuff I don't really review just because it's been out long enough where people get the idea. But Walther's reproducing these now, so I figured it was a perfect time to do the review. Why not? So here it is. We'll go over the specs. So for a 380, it's a pretty big gun. Weighs about 19 ounces. It's an all-steel gun. It's a double single-action trigger on this with a manual decocker / safety, which normally I hate, but on this I don't mind. So your double-action pull is pretty long, but it's very smooth. It's about a 13-pound trigger pull from what they say. And that's heavy, but because it's smooth, it's very easy to, manage it, right? And then after that, it's a single action at about 6 pounds. And that trigger is beautiful. Very little take up and then a nice clean break. So the manual decocker / safety. The one thing I like about the decocker is it's very easy to forget it's there. As I stated, I'm not a big fan of manual safeties on guns unless they're 1911s, but how they've got this set up, it's a very firm safety, right? So it's very hard to engage it or disengage it without wanting to. So you can pretty much set it off, and I'll be honest, that safety's been off for years. Like I've carried the gun, unloaded the gun, reloaded the gun, shot the gun, cleaned the gun, everything with the gun, and never switched the safety. And there's been years that have gone by where I haven't put the safety back on because you just forget it's there. But it's there as an option, and if you want a decocker, you have it. Generally, I've always just lowered the hammer, but decocker is there as an option. So that's that. Sights are really good. Let's see if I can show the sight picture. Right, for a 380, pretty damn good. Like you can see up front, you got a little recessed red dot in there. Trying to see if it'll focus. You've got this pattern on the top that's supposed to reduce glare. And then on the rear, you've got a windage adjustable rear sight. Again, with a really nice little notch in there. So really, that's one of the things that the PPK kind of shines at, is having nice sights for a little handgun like this. So as far as specs go, or on magazines I should say, generally you get two different magazines. When I got mine, I got these two, and they're both 6+1, and they give you a flat-faced magazine, or not flat-faced, a flat-bottomed magazine that fits flush with the gun, allowing for pretty much for anybody with decent-sized hands a 2-finger grip. And then they give you the, again, super iconic finger rest for your third thumb, third thumb, let's talk. Third finger, allowing you to get a little bit better firing grip on this gun. One of the things that Smith and Wesson did, and one of I think the only changes they made, was they made the beaver tail longer, which some people might say, oh, I don't want any changes to the design. I wanted exactly how Walther designed it in the very beginning. I liked the little bit longer beaver tail. Reason being, when this gun was developed, right, this was how people fired handguns. Pretty much you would see the traditional, we've all seen the Sean Connery firing a PPK, holding out, firing it, and we've all seen the World War II footage, or the World War II training videos of guys, you know, I remember the one training video said, you know, point it with your hand and aim, it'll go where you point it, you know, that kind of thing. And one-handed shooting was much more popular. So with modern shooting technique, we use both hands because that is the one and only gun control that I'm a fan of. But with using both hands, we do that high, you know, high grip thing to try and have fun with physics and get a better control on the gun. You can get a little bit of slide blight depending upon how high you are up on the gun. Don't know how it'll see, but that's my standard firing grip for most guns. So I've actually had to change my grip and hold a little bit lower to avoid the slide bite, but the beaver tail does kind of help with that. So just something to keep in mind if you have really big hands and you try and hold up as high as you can on guns, you might encounter a little bit of slide bite, but nothing that can't be adjusted. And if you really want to shoot the thing, you'll have no problem adjusting and getting used to it, as have I. After, of course, I tore a lot of the skin out of my webbing in my hand. But again, I digress. So, super iconic gun, really a lot of fun. I have carried this. I've carried this over the years a bunch of times. This was actually, I think, the second gun I ever carried. I happened to be lucky enough to get one when Smith was producing them before they stopped. And I guess that begs the question, if you're looking at this as a carry gun, why you would get this over something like, say, this. This is a little Kurz CW380, and it's 11 ounces, so it's lighter. It's smaller, so it's easier to conceal. The sights on it are not as good, but pretty close. And it's pretty much got the same capacity. So why would you take this over this? Several reasons. First and foremost, if you want, you know, if you're someone like me who's kind of accepted the fact that the odds of needing your gun are very, very slim, and you've kind of gotten to the point where you just carry cool guns because you like them, that is super iconic. If you're out with your buddies and, oh, what are you carrying today? And you say Walther PPK, I guarantee you, you're going to make the guy saying lock jealous. But, of course, there's much better reasons than that. The weight, because of the weight, reduced recoil. If you're someone who maybe isn't the best with recoil, 9mm Kurz or 380 is very manageable in this little thing. 380 is basically the bottom of what I consider acceptable carry rounds, but it's not a slouch. It's not something to be laughed at. And, you know, if you train with it, or I guess train, practice, whatever with it, and, you know, you can hit what you're aiming at, then there's nothing wrong with carrying a 380. So again, sights are a little bit better on it, which is, you know, like I said, little 380s generally are lacking in the sight departments. Better handhold on it. This thing, as you can see, you can barely get 2 fingers on, and they make little extensions for some of the magazines. I can show you with the mag in, right, that kind of like, for me, would cup the bottom of my second finger, but there's no way I would ever get 3 fingers on this gun. It's wider, right? So, again, just overall, you're going to be able to hold this a lot more comfortably than you ever would, say, a little Kurz CW380 or a Ruger LCP. And don't get me wrong, I love this gun. This gun is one of my very commonly carried backup guns. But for certain people, this might be a better option. So that's pretty much it. Accuracy, you know, has never let me down accuracy-wise. They're well renowned for their accuracy due to the decent sights and the simplified design. I guess finally I can show you disassembly of the gun. Probably one of the world's easiest guns to take apart. So basically all you do is unhinge this, move it to the side, right? Pull back on the slide, lift up, and there you go. That's disassembled. I'm sure YouTube will now ban me because I showed how to take apart a gun on the internet, but oh well. But there you go, that's disassembly. And that's, I guess, one of the final good things I like about this gun is it is so easy to take apart and clean, especially for someone who doesn't like having to mess with their guns. It's stupidly simple. It's simpler than a Glock at this point. But yeah, that's my review of little Walther PPK. Pretty big fan of it. I guess one of the only things I noticed on it was I have over the years gotten a couple malfunctions with different ammunitions, just because of it's kind of got a small ejection port there. Let me see. Here's a loaded 380, and then you can kind of see, like, I don't know how well that shows up, how big the ejection port is. Now, obviously, you're only ejecting spent casing, but I've had like a couple stovepipes over the years. But other than that, especially once you get an ammo that it likes, uh, perfectly reliable gun. But yeah, that's my review of it. Real big fan of it. Super iconic gun. And again, pay no attention to the Moonraker patch on the table. I at no point bought this because it's a cool Bond gun. I only buy guns because of their practicality, never because it's in a movie. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and have a good day.